Welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. I am, as always, Chat Show. How are you? You don't write, you don't call. If you wanted to, though, kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. We are not coming to you live from the West Side Comedy Theater, as we normally do on a Sunday. This is a Saturday, the 17th day of the month of June, right smack dab in the middle of the year, I believe. Maybe is the end of June the very center of the year? Somebody do the math on that. We're coming to you live, not so live, from the Earwolf Studios. My navigation knew where that was, so it's public record where we are. Jamie, how are you?
I'm fantastic.
Still reeling from your Pens winning the Stanley Cup?
I just received a box from my good friend Mark back in Pittsburgh. He sent me all kinds of Stanley Cup paraphernalia.
Yeah, some propaganda.
It was very nice, yeah.
Very sweet. Sam Levine is doing a Doug Benson thing somewhere on the road, I believe.
Wasn't he he and our friend Matt Myra, aren't they like the reigning champions?
They are the reigning champions.
Of Douglas movies, I believe.
Yeah. Matt was over at the house last night retrieving the recording equipment that we use for Carl Reiner, an upcoming episode. Went to Carl's home of a 95-year-old man, and he's up dancing around, changing the lighting scheme.
Wait a second. I didn't know that was an option. You could come to my house?
Finally invited to the Reiser house.
Wow.
I didn't.
You were there before anybody was.
That's true.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. That's the voice of Paul Reiser. Those of you, welcome, Paul.
Yes, we're not in my house. I would be so happy to be taped from my house. I would have put my dog in quarantine because he doesn't like comics.
And what's that about? Is it just Jew comics?
No, he doesn't like anybody but us.
Uh-huh.
We had a boxer. Not a
Tyson.
dog, an actual young strapping Filipino kid, bantamweight, and let me tell you something. My wife adores him.
Sure.
No, we had for many years a lab, and then we got a boxer puppy because I always wanted a boxer, and he was adorable. She was an adorable, beautiful puppy, who at about 12 months exhibited very territorial tendencies, very protective of anybody, and no matter how much you say, no, we like him, we like them.
Doesn't matter.
Don't matter. So we got to now just put her in a crate, tie her up outside. UPS guys come. Is the dog out?
Oh.
We're not coming yet. It's that. And we have mercifully dodged many lawsuits.
Ed, did you talk to a professional about this? And they said,
not going to get better.
Good luck.
Yeah. Seriously, 3 people said, one who's supposed to be like this genius dog person said,
right.
First said, why would you get a boxer? I go, that's the wrong question. We have a boxer. It's like saying, my kid has trouble in school. Why would you get this kid? Well, we do. That's the kid we have. My question to you is, how can you help?
That's right.
And they said, I've never seen a dog this quite territorial. Good luck.
Sure.
Probably will never change. Maybe when she gets a little older, she'll mellow out.
Are there doggy medications that could?
Did not work.
No. Oh, tried.
Yeah?
Sure.
Yeah.
Wait, how old is she now? Because you said
2.5.
Okay.
Oh.
So you've been living with this for about a year and a half.
That's right.
And
she's a terrific, delicious puppy.
In every other way.
And a human being. Hey, but the irony is, I ain't that crazy about people either.
See?
So if it's just, my family.
Maybe she learned from you. Maybe she learned from watching you.
Yeah, but I don't attack. I just don't invite.
You don't feel like you attack.
I attack gently.
See, if he invited, we'd be at his house right now.
Did you read Matt's right? Did you read Mad Magazine growing up?
I did.
Okay, because it was one of the subversive or entrees for me into subversive comedy. But they always had a page, or often had a page, where it'd be dog owners and their dogs. Do you remember this?
No.
And the dog owner would look exactly like the dog, right? As it walked the animal, whether it was a long flowing hair.
I remember that concept, but I don't. But this dog looks nothing like us, and she's adorable, and she sleeps with my son, and even when my son's elsewhere, we'll sleep in his bed because she's just a sweet. Until somebody comes.
Whoa.
And then it's tricky because then she'll get used to somebody, and then like a day later go, I changed my mind. I don't like you, and So that's what I need. It's more tension in my home.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple things.
This is just a warning to your people. Don't come to my house.
Yeah. That was just a disclaimer.
Yeah.
You heard it first.
Frankly, the dog will be fine with Jamie. Likes girls, doesn't like boys so much.
Interesting.
See, I feel like our cat definitely, she prefers males. Yep. Absolutely.
But a cat's not going to kill you. This is, 70-pound killer.
Well, unless you have allergies.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a slow death.
Slow death.
Why does that person keep
When's the part
back?
where you introduce me? When does that happen?
Let's see. Ladies and gentlemen, upcoming shows.
Am I in any of these?
Carl Reiner, as I mentioned, Paul Rudd, Bob Saget, Rob Corddry.
Wow.
October 29th, Ricky Gervais.
I am honored to be.
See?
I had no idea you were this big.
Wait a minute. Recent guests.
Recent guest.
If you want to tune in and see what you missed.
What?
Christopher Guest, speaking of guests.
Yes.
Lauren Graham, Billy Bob Thornton, Rob Riggle, J.K. Simmons, Craig Ferguson, Michaela Watkins.
Look at you.
Just to name a few. Check us out, write to us, let us know what's happening.
I had
Paul
no
Reiser,
idea.
welcome.
Thank you.
Did you know you were exactly 7 months older than me? We both have a birthday on the 30th. You March, me October. So can you?
I didn't know it, but I sensed it.
Can you tell me what to look forward to when the number clicks from 59 to 60?
Are you 59? So
I'm saying
actually,
we're 7 months apart.
No, but I'm 61. My Wikipedia, my public age is a year less than I am.
How did you pull that off?
Here's the thing. I didn't. And all my friends who grew up with me goes, hey, wacko.
Horse shit.
Yeah.
You're allowed to swear.
Yeah. Thank you. Like, who are you trying to fool? I said, I'm not trying to fool. I know exactly how it happened.
Also, if you were going to lie,
Yes.
you would do more
So
than a
I
year.
tried to
Take
call.
3 years off.
I said, so was it Wikipedia or
You call-
IMDb? Somebody.
Yeah.
I had somebody on my team. I said, can you get Wikipedia to just change it?
Yeah.
And they said, well, we won't change it unless he sends us his driver's license. I said, okay, first of all, it ain't that important to me. Second of all, have you ever heard of an actor trying to be a year older? So why would I lie? But
Yeah.
the very first interview I ever did, and let this be a lesson for all you up-and-coming people, the very first interview I did, which would have been like 87 or something, I remember doing an interview. It was like, and it was January. My birthday is March. And whatever I was, at 31 or something, and I said, they said, how old are you? And I gave my age. It was going to change in 2 months, but he didn't ask me that. I said, well, I am today. So he extrapolated from that, he was born this year. So he counted wrong. And forever that has been. So what my point is, whatever you say in your first public entree will be with you for a long time.
That's the heads up for the kids out there.
And so to answer your question, I don't remember turning 60 because one of the things that goes is the remembering shit.
Sure.
Yeah.
We performed,
I like it.
Yeah. The forgetting?
No, being 60 is great. I'll tell you why.
Sure.
It's the first age that it sounds old. So you get a free pass. Like, could you help me move this couch? And go, hey, I'm 60. Are you kidding? No, I'm done. I'm not carrying.
Why'd you tell him that?
Not lifting a couch.
I started saying that at 50, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not
I feel
picking up a couch.
you'll feel better about it next year.
We both did a show together for a wonderful congressman, your Adam Schiff.
Yes.
Last weekend, and I enjoyed your. I hadn't seen you do stand up in forever and live, and I loved the bit about the forgetting.
I don't remember the bit.
and the.
Hey.
And the compromise and the negotiation that takes place between you and the wife that boils down to
Yes.
what's going to happen if somebody
Yes.
tells me this is official and the wife says, well, I would treat you nicer. And you say, why don't we just jump to that?
Jump to that. Yes. I don't know that it's actually a biological thing that that you can't remember. It might be that, or it might be simply by 60, there's enough shit that's gone in there.
This is what I keep telling her.
There's no more room.
There's no more room. And by the way, she'll come downstairs with a brush in her hand and say, why did I bring this down?
I
So
do that
any
all
age.
Yeah.
Any
Okay.
age.
But I remember, a guy from 7th grade.
Sure.
Remember the time we did? Yeah. Last
Yes,
week.
I have no short-term
Where I put
memory.
my phone,
Very
this
good.
I don't know.
Well, we're
time.
going to test the memory right out of the chute.
Okay.
We have a segment on the show, which I
don't remember that.
Which I'm going to get to a little later. But since we're on the memory thing, and this question, Famous Questions is the name of the segment.
Okay.
The questions are designed for you by a famous friend and/or former coworker. In this case, a very old dear friend, Mr. Jerry Seinfeld.
He had a question for me?
He coughed up a question. I dragged it out of him today.
Uh-oh.
What are the 3 West Hollywood location names in which I tend to slur my S's?
Los Angeles, San Vicente, and Cedar Sinai. and he
Say them again, please.
It was because we all lived in roughly the same neighborhood when we first moved out. He goes, I'm right near Cedar Sinai, San Vicente, and Los Angeles. And then, so cut to 20 years later, and he had his first child.
Yes.
And I called to congratulate him, and I said, what's the baby's name? And it's Sasha. I said, you're kidding. You went with Sasha Seinfeld and Los Angeles? He goes, I didn't think it through. I I believe it's Sasha. I have to double check. Pretty sure his daughter's name is Sasha. But that's a very specific question. Had anybody asked it, I would have known that was from Dr. Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Cedar Sinai, Los Angeles, San Vicente.
So you and he and Mark Schiff and I think Larry Miller.
Yes.
And who was the...
And it was Michael Caine.
Michael
Hampton Caine, not the British actor.
Sure. there was a regular get-together at a restaurant under the bridge.
Yes, we had a traditional a long-running New Year's Day tradition that started very unceremoniously by accident because we were, all losers with no girlfriends and nothing to do. This was been 80 or 79 maybe, 79 or 80, and we just, on New Year's Day, went for lunch and had a great time, and it was just like at a diner. And the next year we said, well, let's go, and we found the fanciest place we could think of, which was the River Cafe in Brooklyn. And then each year it became, and none of us had any money at all, but it became an extravagant thing. We would rent a limo, which we never did, and we'd go and we'd have champagne, and it would just get a little more extravagant, and then it simmered down, and we all loved it. It was a very it was a great continuum because, like, you look at your calendar and, like, you get a new calendar in January, first week of January, and I have nothing to do until next January, and I went down lunch with the fellas, and for the longest time it was great because you could clock your life, like you knew that was the one standing thing,
right? And
over the years, and then it got more and more
ridiculous.
Well, it did for a while, and then it petered out. And then one of us would get. Who was the first? I think Mark was married first, or maybe me. And then marriage, and then kids, and then and the end. So then it kind of petered out because I won't name names, but some of the above mentioned went, no, we're not going to do it this year. I think we're done.
Oh, wow.
And so it hasn't happened for a couple of years. But we had like a 29, 30-year run or something like that.
Yeah. I want to.
What is so important? I had to drive down here.
Do you recall the very first time we spoke? And by the way, hint: I used the word "spoke" purposely.
Here's the thing, Kevin. I don't even know how I know you. Everybody told me this was a great thing to do. Have we met? I do. I remember.
Where were you?
I was in a crappy motel in San Francisco.
Correct.
Playing at Cobb's. Before Cobb's was in a lovely place where it is now. This was in a smaller shithole. And would have been
in the cannery, maybe, or the marina.
Yeah. What year would that have been? 82, right?
Sounds about right. Jamie, you had just been born.
And I remember the day. There was a crying baby, and I'm in my. It was like before showtime, and I get a call. I pick up the phone in my hotel room. And he goes, "This is Peter Falk, and I just wanted to say," and I said, "Wow." I said, I don't know who this is, but it's a great Peter Falk impression. And it was you introducing yourself, and then we became friends just from that. Were you on the show with me? No.
No.
So you just called me, cold called me.
That's right. I called Tom Sawyer, who booked Cobb's then until quite recently.
Different than Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer.
Considerably.
Yes.
Has not ever been on a body of water. And I asked, what motel is this guy? Motel,
yeah. I'll tell you the backstory on that in a second. Go ahead.
What motel is he staying at? And then back then, you could call a motel and you could say, ring Paul Reiser's room, and they would just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, for those of you
now I have a dog.
That's right. And I always check in. I always check in under the name John Lovitz. That way no one will bother me. So I call, and you answer the phone. Now, you've misremembered again. So let me remind you from my perspective.
Please.
I hear on the other end, yes, hello, that's you. And I say, Paul, it's Peter Falk. Let me tell you why I'm calling. I'm in the area visiting, and I saw your name on a marquee. I want to say Cobes. Cobes? Is that possibly the name of the club? Anyways, I want to come to the show, and I wanted to just say hello. I hope I'm not interrupted. Now, you did not say, that's a great Peter Falk. I don't know who this is. You actually, and this happened to Johnny Carson's executive personal secretary at The Tonight Show, where I also called as Peter Falk. She did the same thing, which is, and I could hear it in your voice and her voice. I'm not certain whether or not this is Peter Falk, so I'm just going to go, okay. Right, because you can't really take the chance.
Yeah,
right?
but
so here's the thing. Here's the way I remember it. We kept talking, and you then finally committed to Mr. Falk. I got to tell you, I'm such a fan, honestly.
Really? I went that way?
You went that way.
Wow.
To the point where it became uncomfortable for me to break the gag. And I didn't.
No, so I actually thought for a second that he was in San Francisco.
Either that or you were placating me, but you were definitely taking the line of.
In case it's real.
Yeah, Mr. Falk, I don't know. Let me just say, I'm such a fan, and I can't believe you're calling me. This is terrific. And so it got so bad that I couldn't interrupt the call and bust myself, and I let it go to the point where, all right, well, I got to go now. And I hung up the call without ever letting you know.
No.
And then I stirred for like 20 minutes, and I called right back, and I said, Paul, hi, my name is Kevin Pollak. I just called you as Peter Falk. I'm a local comedian. And there was a long pause, and then you said, which I'll never forget, you are not a nice person. That was, and then we.
I don't remember that. But by the way, this is the same. Going back to the bit with my wife.
Yeah.
This is where I have to say it's your word against mine. How do we know that yours is more accurate?
Because
you're almost 60.
We're not in a court of law. I've got you by apparently a year and 7 months.
Well, it's funny because it's interesting because if that's the truth.
Yeah.
It's remarkable that I would have entertained the possibility that in
Peter Falk would track you down.
Fleabag Motel that he said, I'd like to come and
see the show at Cobb's.
Yeah, she just see the show. But then you came down to the club?
And then I came down and forced myself into your life.
Here's what I remember after that, and this is also very uncharacteristic of me. Somewhere, I don't think I guess we hung out that weekend a bit, but shortly thereafter, yeah, I moved to L.A. in January of '83, and somewhere in that first year, you came down and could you stay? And you stayed in my apartment. I'm thinking, I never would let anybody. I don't like people. I let this
and we barely knew each other.
Yeah.
What's the schnorr doing on the couch?
You know what I remember about that?
Please.
You were a perfectly good guess as far as I can remember.
Otherwise,
was it could it have been more than one night? I doubt it.
Probably not. I moved there in September of '83, so...
Here's what I remember, and you can cut this if it's embarrassing, but I remember you...
A lot of masturbating?
On my part, I'm sure. But I don't remember what you were doing. I know you were in there a long time, and you seemed healthy, so probably. No, I do. I remember you had a showcase, whatever. You were going to go on to the Improv, and you were not only practicing your set, you were practicing saying hello to Bud Friedman, the owner. Well, Paul, what do you think? Should I say, how are you? Nice to meet you? Or, Bud, it's a pleasure. I go, are you fucking kidding me? Really? You're going to practice a hello? And I said, this guy is intent on making it
a good impression.
Making a good impression. He practiced his hello.
Yeah.
Who knew?
How are you?
That
Mr.
30 years
Friedman?
later, we'd be in a little hellhole here on Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
Not in Carl Reiner's. I could have done it at Carl's house. I bet you.
We could have met at Carl's.
Yeah, then that way you don't see my dog. I don't have to vacuum.
I realized when I went from the document I had his notes on, at the top was his name, Reiner, and Reiser separated, I just replaced the N with an S.
Yes.
In terms of spelling.
You're not wrong there. That's a good point you made there, Kevin.
Well, here was the deal. The reason I sought you out initially.
Then, yes.
And I made a note of this. Along with seeing Don Rickles in the film Kelly's Heroes, your performance in Diner was the single most important inspiration to me as a young comedian who wanted to be an actor.
I never heard that.
But without attending all those annoying classes.
I never heard that.
You seemed like a natural to me as opposed to someone who studied acting.
I'm still stuck on Kelly's Heroes.
Yeah.
Go back. So Rickles and Kelly's Heroes, you said, I want to be a comedian.
Do you remember the movie at all?
Yeah,
Sure.
Yes.
It was very impactful. Elliot Gould and Donald
was Trini
Sutherland.
Lopez in that as well?
Let's say yes.
Or there was some movie like that, or maybe it was...
It was either Dirty Dozen or Kelly's
maybe
Heroes.
it was Dirty Dozen. Rickles was a
But
great
Rickles
actor.
was the very well-known comedian who was suddenly in a movie. It was the first time I saw One of Us, or in my mind, One of Us, because I was probably just barely a teenager, who was acting in a movie, and believable. In his case, he was in a drama that had bits of comedy. And then Diner, you could say the same thing. It's kind of a dramedy. I don't know that it's flat-out comedy.
No, It's funny. Only time I played, only a couple of years ago, I played Diner for my kids because everybody had been talking about it. They had never seen it. And they said, well, what's it like? I said, it's not a comedy. I said, you're not going to laugh. But they were surprised me in that they really liked it and they got why it was so cool. But yeah, it's not a comedy at all. It kind of defined a new kind of comedy where it's character comedy and
right.
So we'll get back to me in a second. But when you did that, when you were just doing stand-up, but you had never acted when we first met in 82-ish?
No.
And was your stand-up largely impressions at the time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right off the bat?
I didn't really have my own voice at all until, oh my goodness, maybe into the late 80s, early 90s. What was I talking as?
It was funny because when we did
person.
this benefit last week, and I was with my lovely wife in the back, and we were sitting and watching your set, and similarly, I hadn't seen you work in a while, and I went, it was great, but it was funny. I was going, it was so polished and smooth that you were telling some bullshit story into which you're dropping all these routines, and I'm buying it. I'm going, wow, he was in the supermarket, and that happened, and then another thing happened in the same day, and like it wasn't until I'm driving home and going, oh, he made all that shit up. That's not true at all. But it was so polished and smooth, and I said, oh, look how he's found his thing.
Yeah,
that's his thing.
He's talking, and
he's telling a nice story. And then the impressions just slip in there.
Now, the Peter Falk, I was accosted in the produce section of Ralph's by Peter Falk. I had done him on The Tonight Show my first time sitting down next to the King.
In Ralph's?
Yeah. And that pre-interview with Macaulay, he said,
Jim Macaulay was the talent coordinator for The Tonight Show.
The gatekeeper.
For those of you, gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Not the gatekeeper.
No.
That's very different.
Sure it is. He said, what do you want Johnny to how do you want him to set up your first story or whatever? And I said, just have him ask me if he heard that I do impersonations. Because I knew
and Johnny would always go, somebody told me.
Yeah. Now
that somebody was Jim Macaulay.
That's right. It was always Jim.
Somebody told me.
Jim's backstage going, I'm the somebody. Yeah. What do you mean somebody? So I knew he loved Peter Falk. He had Peter Falk on The Tonight Show all the time. All the time Falk was on.
Yeah.
And I can even remember one time the new season was coming back. And Johnny said, now, Peter, new season's coming up. Please, what can you tell us? Anything, any little tidbit, some little thing? And Peter, Johnny, I can't tell you a lot. I will tell you this, though. And it'll mean something when you see the episode. 7, 4, 2, 6, 11. That's all I can tell you. Now, what is it? Is that a code of some kind? And they were just those little things that lock into your brain. So, my first time on the show, and I said, now, Kevin, you will talk about the movie you're here to promote, Willow, in just a moment. But somebody told me backstage that you do impersonations. Is that right? And I crossed one eye, as like Peter Falk, very open about having one glass eye.
And it killed.
And I just said, right without any conversation, I just said, Johnny, that's a bold-faced lie. As Peter Falk with the one eye flying. And he pushed himself away from the desk, clutching his chest.
Yeah.
And
I remember
that was it.
I remember that. What year was that?
85,
6.
87, because Willow was 88. I think 87, 88, somewhere in there, really. Honestly, it took that long. But 3 months later, Peter Falk, near the Carrots at Ralph's, says, how do you do that with your eye?
Yeah.
Yeah. Me, I understand, but how do you do that?
I just love that he was in Ralph's, the supermarket.
Near the Carrots.
Near
Peter
the Carrots.
Falk. Yeah, which is good for the eyes. Yeah, there you go.
Ironically.
He only got half carrots.
That's right.
Baby carrots.
So now, many years later, you write a film wherein Peter Falk plays your father.
Yes. So, and I was probably, I think, I was already working on that. And that was when you stayed in my house in 82. I remember sitting in my apartment there, my little one bedroom, and with my Smith Corona, and I was typing, and I had this idea, and all I just had this very clear conviction. I had seen my father. I was back in New Jersey, and I saw my father, which was visiting my folks, and my father had the TV on. He was watching The Cheap Detective, and he was just belly laughing at Peter Falk. And like a moment, a lightning bolt, I just said, Peter Falk, my father. There's something. My father, who was had a perfectly nice sense of humor, but didn't really laugh at everybody. But Peter Falk killed him. And I remember loving Peter when I was 8 and seeing Robin and the Seven Hoods. And I never had any aspirations to be an actor or cared about Hollywood, anything. But I said, that guy, what's that?
Yeah.
And this guy killed me in everything. And in that movie, and then but even before that, the other gangster movie, Pocket Full of Miracles.
Pocket Full of Miracles.
Bravo. I forget which one was Bravo. But anyway, so I was working on that for years, and I would start and I would stop, and I just knew that Peter Falk was going to play my father, and this was my dream.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was. I just had that clarity, and I said it's a road trip, and it's something I don't know what, but it's a father and son, and I would start writing scenes, and I didn't know anything about writing. I had no idea. And I'd put it away for 5 years, and I would pick it up and, over the years. And then somewhere in the late 90s, somebody, and it might have even been like after 99 when Mad About You was over and I had nothing but a big open sky of time. Somebody said, what would you do if somebody told you you had a year to live? And I wasn't even thinking, and out of my mouth came, I would write the Peter Falk movie faster. And so that was my reminder to myself, like, you want to do that.
Wow.
And at a certain point, there won't be that many actors left who can still play my father. So I wrote so here's I never told you this, I don't think. So I had this, and it was, the truth was, I realized later I couldn't really write a father-son movie till I had kids. And it became clear to me what a father is. And here we are on Father's Day weekend, ironically. So I had
20 years ago, your oldest.
I wrote it. Finally, after all those years, it wrote like in a couple of weeks. It came out really easily, and I remember. But while I was before I had even decided to sit down and just do it and put pen to paper, I went to see Peter Falk did a play in a little theater here, the Geffen Theater, or I think it was called the Westwood Theater then. Anyway, with Jason Alexander. It was a two-hander where Peter was ironically a detective, and they were in a library, and it was just magic. And it's a little 200-300-seat theater.
Wow.
And Peter's entrance comes down the aisle from the back. Yeah, excuse me. And it was like Columbo.
Oh, my God.
And it was just, I was a kid at the circus. I go, this is the greatest.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So I went backstage. I knew Jason, and I went to say hi to Jason. And I said, I got to say hello to Peter Falk. And I think I had it maybe shaken his hand once at an Emmy Awards or something like that. And I'm sitting there, and I was bursting with, you don't know how important you are to me. And I've learned over time that when you idolize somebody, just keep it to yourself. It's just because it's off-putting, and
You just come off as a crazy person.
Yeah, and I don't really know how to respond other than to say thank you.
That's right.
Yeah. And ultimately, but
where are you going to go?
And I've done this a couple times, and I've learned my lesson because it's your story. It's not theirs. And like, no, you don't understand. Like, well, I can't understand because it's yours. God bless you. Yeah, and nor should they. That's enjoy it. So I just went back and I shook his hand. And so I had never mentioned anything. And I was even thinking, I said, boy, I want to write this movie, but.
Right.
The best case you go, well, go fucking write it. What are you bothering me? Write it and send it to me.
So I didn't say anything.
So I didn't say anything. Right? I just shake his hand, and he takes my hand, looks me in the eye. He says, I love what you do. I love what you do. I love your acting. I love your show. I love your commercials. I had a whole bunch of commercials. And he goes, I love what you write. And he looks me right in the eye, and he repeats it. He goes, I love what you write. I'm going, okay, you're not going to get a clearer sign from the gods than this. And I think that was the day I went home and go, start typing. And
wow.
Yeah, it was kind of magical. And I wrote it, and it came out very easily finally, and which is a great and probably pretty common thing that sometimes something has to percolate. And whether it's you just make yourself do it or you're a little more mature and you know what you want to write. I wrote it. And I called him. I got his number from our friend Joe Montaigne. I said, can you introduce, I knew Peter knew me, and I knew it wouldn't be totally out of the blue. And he lives not far from me. I call him up, and he says, yeah, bring it down. You send it down. Come on down. He goes, I gave him the street. He goes, I'm on the, he goes, I'm on the way. I'm on the New York side of the street. Wow. I'm on the east side of the street, the west side of the street. And I give it to him. And I go backstage. I go back home, my little 10-minute, and I just sit by my phone. This is like in the afternoon. I give it to him. And I remember it was a big day. I go, he's reading it. I've been sitting on this for 20 years. This is my dream come true. Around 10:30 that night, the phone rings, and I'm waiting for him. I'm waiting for him to call. This one thing I've been working on. And it's like Leno used to do a bit. You're waiting by the phone, and you go to take a leak. I missed the cable guy. While I was out walking the dog, I come back. There was a flashing on my phone machine. I said, I missed it. And I play the machine, and this is what I hear. Well, I love this. I fucking love this. and he goes, I'm on page 36, and I love this.
I'm on page 36. I didn't finish.
He didn't finish, but he called to tell. So I call him back now. It's 11 o'clock. But I said, I'm going to sit here. Just tell him I can't wait to see when you finish. He goes, well, I'm a slow reader. I said, I see that. So I stay up. And he calls me back and he goes, well, we got to do this. Yeah. I went and I woke up my bride. I went, if nothing happens, I'm done. I'm a complete human.
That's right.
I waited this. This was so right.
That's crazy.
And the guy I wrote it for loved it. And then it was a good year and a half till I was able to get it together. And he was committed. And doing it was just my dream come true because he was very, everybody said, he's kind of bristly. He can be a little cantankerous. And I said, I don't think so. And he was lovely to me. And he knew that I adored him. So, and it's interesting because on one hand, I was like, well, it's like a father-son. But in fact, it was more like brothers because his father looked down upon a son becoming an actor in the same sort of uncomfortable, loving way that my father did. So we were sort of bonded on that level. That even though he was obviously a different generation,
but also professionally, he considered you a peer, not a youngster.
Well, yeah. Well, he
shook
respected
your
me.
hand
Yeah, I mean, he
and
respected me, and he
exactly.
had an inkling, and he knew that I liked him. So every day was a dream come true, and it was a beautiful little movie. If those of you listen, go see it just to watch him because I think it was his last. If it wasn't his last, it was second to last. I think it was his last complete movie, and he's brilliant in it. And just watch him, and it was in the fall. It was October up back east,
nice.
and we were chasing foliage, right? Because I never knew this till we were in pre-production. That foliage has a pattern; it moves east. So, like if you're going to shoot September, you got to go to western New Jersey. 2 weeks later, not east to Long Island. So we had to. We were upstate New York, and in this gorgeous 1940 or something, 1939 Ford, and we're driving, and we're talking, and we're doing the scenes, which is very father-son loving. But in the middle, when you have to get back to starting point, we're just bullshitting and improvising, and I was trying to do stuff that some of it actually stayed in the movie. We were talking about girls, and that was when did you first meet? My character was like, when did you tell me about when you met Mom, and how did that start? And then it became, what do you like about girls? He goes, right where the leg becomes ass, that area, you can't even describe how it just becomes suddenly it's an ass, and that's a beautiful thing.
That is the sweet spot with the person as well.
And I was never not aware every minute of that, and every minute since that. This was my dream. This was, and it came out as well as I had hoped, and
it never does, by the way. When you have dreams, especially involving heroes, it never quite works.
And the interesting thing, the to the extent that people said, he can be cantankerous, he can be difficult, and I saw him get bristly with the producer, with the director. But what I saw, it was always from a place of trying to do good work.
Yeah.
It was never a diva. He was never just being an asshole to be an asshole. He was like, you're rushing me, and we got to get this right.
Yeah.
And then one time he had this kind of ugly scene where he really got in the director's face, and he was 75, and he threw a table. He just put his hands and boom, like in the director's face. Yeah, you're going to mess with me? I'll mess with you. And the director backed off, and I could see, and he was really worked up. I was like, don't mess with this guy. And then I see 10 minutes later, he comes over to me, and he was kind of down on himself and embarrassed that he had lost control. And he said to me, he goes, I just want to get this scene good. And I went, there it is. It's all it was always about.
As long as it's about that, then from your standpoint, and certainly his, it's about the right thing. If you're going to lose your temper.
It was only about the work, and he was the most. Well, you know me. He was the most non-fancy guy. He was just. He didn't suffer fools, and then when we did premieres and stuff, and we went to film festivals, he would avoid all the assholes.
Yeah.
But I'd see him go over to a kid or a guy in a wheelchair or somebody who was a cop, and they would just talk. And we were coming back from a shoot one day. And this young PA is driving the two of us in the back of the car, and we're going through in New York, and we're going through the tunnel, and I forgot what the kid went in the wrong lane or something, and a cop pulls us over, and Peter goes, I got this, and he sticks out, and he does, and you think, Columbo, who's not going to let go? He goes, officer, you know what, my fault, I told him to do that, and he says, Peter Falk, how are you? And he still got the ticket, and then he turned to the kid, he goes, I thought that would have worked, sorry kid.
That's fantastic.
Loved him.
Well, did I ever tell you, we had Alan Arkin, I know you love the in-laws also. We had Alan Arkin on the show, and he told the story of how the in-laws got put together.
Yes.
You didn't know the story?
I did. Well, it's on the DVD.
Okay, good. Good. Because
extra things.
I hadn't heard it before, so if you hadn't heard it, it was pretty great.
Go tell it. But tell your people.
No, I've probably mentioned it before.
Okay.
So I do want to get back to Diner just in terms of
get back to me.
Yeah,
let's talk about
exactly.
me.
It's enough already with Peter.
Yeah.
So the story's been told by you many, many times where you're accompanying a friend to the audition. I think something about socks.
That was Michael Hampton Caine.
Yeah. And at that time, my understanding is that you had not studied acting. Is that fair?
I think I was in a class. I had taken a class.
Oh, you had?
And it was a lot of comics in the class. And it was like a guy who was sort of trying to help comics shed their comedic crutches,
Learn how to listen instead of just be the one talking.
Right, and don't go for the joke and be in the moment and so on. But at the time, and I guess it's still true, but it was new at the time that casting directors would come to comedy clubs. It was because comedy clubs were sort of still on the way up.
And Barry Levinson, directed Diner, himself came to comedy clubs.
Yes. No. But the irony was, I didn't. They came to the club, and then nobody put me up. I wasn't even like. They picked like 10 guys to show the casting director. I was not among the 10. My friend Michael Hampton Caine, who was like Irish Catholic kid from Long Island,
right.
Not really going to be in that group. But anyway, he was going, and I had. Like the next day or 2 days later, I was going to Miami, to Florida, Fort Lauderdale, the comic strip in Fort Lauderdale, which was like a crazy. I mean, those were like the golden days of just fun gigs. 4 comics, your friends, and you're in Florida, and you had pool, and you work 20 minutes a night, and then you're getting drunk and picking up girls. But it was my first road trip, and I needed socks. And I went, I don't have enough socks.
Who doesn't need socks for Florida?
Right. Didn't think about that. But I said, I could use some socks. And so Michael came, what are you doing? I said, I got to go to Macy's. I don't know why I even thought Macy's. I'm going to go get socks. He goes, well, I'll come with you, and we'll get lunch. And Michael was this great, any day was cause for celebration. And suddenly you're having champagne at 2 in the afternoon. Why? Because it's a Tuesday. And so I went with him. And just waiting in the lobby, in the outer office.
Waiting area.
And he goes in and does his audition. And I said, come on. And the casting director says, where's your picture? I said, I don't have one. She said, well, do you have one? I said, well, yeah, but not here. But I'm not. And I literally said, I'm not up for this. I'm just with my friend. Please. I'm nothing to do with this. And she was looking at me. I can picture it. She was like in the doorway going, this guy might look right. And she said, come back tomorrow. And bring a picture. Mm-hmm. And so I came back the next day, and we were laughing. Wouldn't it be funny if I got this? And went to Macy's, got the socks.
It's only funny until you get it. Then it's not so funny.
Yeah,
for him.
Yeah, although he benefited because comics would pay him $20 to go sock shopping, so he did very well. Yeah. And then the next day, going back to the acting class, it's funny. I actually had a whole chunk in my act at the time about diners, because New York, you hang out in diners, Greek diners, and I can't even remember the bits, but it was just a lot. There was about 12 minutes of diner stuff. And but I was, for my acting class, I knew, put that aside, put all your stand-up instincts and be an actor and be in the moment. And Barry Levinson was totally not. He just wanted a naturalistic. And I don't think I read a scene. He just wanted to talk, and I was so intent on showing my chops. And he goes, and I said, well, if you don't, I must have read some scene. And because he said, well, try it again, just more naturally. I said, well, I don't want it to just sound like, if I sound like me, and it's just like a guy having coffee. He goes, yeah, but that's what I want. I went, oh, so all the shit I'm learning in class, forget that? Yeah, forget that. Yeah. So the irony was, yes, I went to class, and now forget everything. Which, by the way, is also kind of what people will tell you in acting. Do all your homework, do all your prep, and then throw it out.
So many years later, I have an opportunity to work with Barry in the movie Avalon, his third Baltimore set film.
Yeah.
And I had a similar experience in that getting the part was an unusual path. But when it happened, he had come to the Improv in L.A. and had seen.
Is that right?
He had seen other comedians, and he had professed to see me. And I'd been brought in on Good Morning Vietnam, and I think for the part that
Forrest Whitaker.
No.
I went in and read for that part.
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
went with Forrest Whitaker. I said, all right, different.
Yeah, it was. No, the actor, I'm forgetting his name. I feel horrible. He's a wonderful.
Bruno
Arliss
Kirby?
played Arliss, the TV show.
Bob Wall.
So, and then something else, maybe Tin Men or something. But finally, for Avalon, I was able to go in and get the thing. And then once I got it, that's when I got nervous.
Sure.
And said to my manager, who at the time managed both of us, you and I, and Arthur.
I forgot about that.
And
Of course.
I said,
Wow.
I remember that Paul worked with an acting coach for Aliens. So I think I should work. I decided it was time to become an actor after I got the job because it was so important. So the acting coach, through Arthur, said he needed a copy of the script so he could work with me. So I go to Barry and I say, Barry, I need to get a copy of the script to this acting coach. Is that okay? And you see it coming. Barry says, oh, no. You're the guy. Just be the guy. I don't want you to talk to somebody who's going to come in here and tell you how to be this character. You came in. You were the guy. Just be that.
Yeah.
Be the guy. Would not let me work with this acting coach. Hated acting. Hated to see acting.
Yes.
All the other actors in
That's why
Avalon
he's a great director.
are these brilliant theater-trained actors. Armin Mueller-Stahl, John Plowright, Aidan Quinn, Elizabeth Perkins, who you worked with. All these wonderful theater, and they all wanted to rehearse. Oh, no. Just go to lunch. Go to lunch and go hang out at the diner. So, and I was in heaven because I didn't know how to act.
Yeah.
I just know how to be.
Yes.
So it turns out he's put a comedian in every one of his films, practically. You got Dennis Leary in Wag the Dog. You got Dennis Miller in Disclosure, I think it was. If you go through his films.
Jackie Gale was in Tin Man.
Jackie Gale. So do you know the story of him and Craig T. Nelson as a comedy team?
Yes.
Because I give
And Rudy DeLuca.
It's
a trio.
They were a trio?
Yeah, I believe they were at one point.
I knew he wrote with Rudy.
I could be wrong about that.
But the one bit that I remember he and Craig T. Nelson did was the guitarist, the singing duo. So his day in the late 60s as a comedy team, they did the coffee houses. And I was thinking recently, coffee houses, they're all over town now, coffee houses. But they just sell coffee. You can't get up and do 5 minutes.
You can, but they throw you out.
Yeah, that's right. So he said back then it was all these acoustic duos, and he and Craig T. Nelson hated them because they all had these drippy hippie songs, and they took themselves so seriously,
Right.
anti-war, and it was just enough already. So he said, but no, the audience doesn't know we're comedians, so we'll have them introduce us as another acoustic duo. And we went up with guitars. Hi, we're Craig and Barry. We're going to do our new song, Letter to the President. Enjoy. Bing, 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 ding, 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 ding. And they'd look at each other, ding, ding, ding. And they addressed the mics. Ding, 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 ding. It was a 9-minute bit of tuning up. They never actually sang. And he said the first 3 minutes, the audience caught on, and it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. The middle 3 minutes, they wanted to set us on fire. They didn't understand why we were still doing it, because in our minds, it's a 9-minute bit. But if we waited through that middle 3, and they came back around for the last 3 minutes and thought we were the funniest thing that ever happened.
And by the way, I'm finding that's the same as marriage. If you get through that middle section, it's good on the other side. But you know what's funny? You reminded when you said you got the part and you wanted to, I better go learn to act.
Now, yeah.
But I was just talking to yesterday, I don't remember who, somebody about, and maybe this is too revealing, but as an actor, I find, you go open auditions and you know, the percentage of stuff that you get of the stuff that you want is very minimal. The best, in my experience, the happiest time is when you have a meeting or an audition and it goes well and you think you're going to get it. And then for those hours until they say, yeah, this is great, I'm going to get it. The minute they say you got it, you go, shit, now I have to be good.
I got work to do.
Yeah, and then the work is never fun. It's only fun for like an hour and a half when you walk out of the audition going, I did pretty good. I think I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
And then they go, you got it. And go, great. Now we're screwed.
How much time have you spent in Pittsburgh? We mentioned before we went on about the Pittsburgh connection with Jamie here and your better half, Paula.
You're also from Pittsburgh.
So I
haven't spent a lot of time.
Were there no Thanksgiving things you were forced to go to?
No. She was very happy to get away from Pittsburgh.
I see what you're saying.
And has not gone back a lot. I've been there. I don't think I ever played. No, I haven't been there. I did play about a year ago. There's a lovely theater out there. Carnegie something. It's like this gorgeous old theater that was like his screening room. There's no screening, but they had like little vaudeville shows or whatever in his house. And it was like a, 1,000-seat theater in his house because you're Andrew Carnegie.
That's right.
It's better than a rumpus room. But no, so yes, I have a deep connection, but the main celebration is that we're not there.
Yeah.
As lovely a town as it is.
No, I don't go back often either.
Yeah.
And I remember...
I was surprised how beautiful it was.
Well, after my lovely bride left and came out here, a few years later, there was some national survey where Pittsburgh was voted the most livable town. I went, really?
Yeah.
You want to reconsider this? Because L.A. is not on the list. But she left the most livable town.
Yeah.
But that didn't presume that you had family there you wanted to dodge.
I see what you're saying. It's becoming clear to me now.
Pretty sure her mother in Pittsburgh is not going to be
Listening
checking out this
to this?
podcast. You know,
I'm sending her a
She can't
link.
even get like networks.
I'm sending her a link.
Yeah, good luck. A link.
My mother thinks that if it's not on a network, it doesn't exist.
No,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
It's not real
I have
show
a
real
show
show
on
business.
Amazon called Red Oaks, and my mother-in-law goes, well, what channel? I said, it's not a channel. She goes, well, when is it on? I said, whenever you want. She goes, well, how can I watch it? I went, yeah, I don't think this is going to happen.
Yeah.
I had to show her DVD when she visited.
And the new show on CISO, that's going to be fun for her.
Yeah, good luck. She goes, why don't you do a show like on a regular channel?
On Channel 4. Why
Channel
don't you do a
4.
show on Channel 4? I like Channel 4.
It was
Yeah.
Channel 4.
Yeah.
But yes, so I don't get back there often enough.
Right. But
Or I do. I do get back just often enough.
That's right. Before we get too far away from Carson and our connection to him, I trust you sat with him. You did stand up first, but there must have been times eventually when you went on the show.
I actually only did stand up one time.
Okay.
When Diner came out, April of '82.
Right.
I had not gotten invited on. My audition was not clearing that bar.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Diner came out, suddenly like, okay, here's a kid, he's an actor, but he came out and I did stand up. And somebody forced me to watch it recently, and it was embarrassing. It was fine, but it was so remarkably slow. I think I was so worried about being fast and nervous that I slowed down to almost, like... just
Same thing with Leno's first shot. If you watch a lot of the
Yes.
first ones, I think Macaulay put it in everyone's head.
Slow down.
No matter how slow you think you're going,
Yes.
slow it down.
And they fucked us up. But also, talk about finding your voice. Literally, I don't think I had found my comedy voice, but even the pitch of my voice was like, and my son watched it, and he's very comedy savvy, and he goes, why did all comics talk like that then? I said, you know what? I don't know, but they did. Everybody in the club was, it was just, they goes, did you ever notice? It was like that was new at the time.
Yeah.
But so then I did it, and then I didn't do it. It's interesting. I did it in '82, and then I don't think I did it for a while and then Aliens came out, which was
Right.
'86. And then I did My Two Dads, which was on NBC, so there was a lot of cross-pub. But there was a stretch from like '86 to '88 maybe, where he had me on a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes like every 8 or 9 weeks.
Yeah.
That when I was cleaning the closet, I found all these cassettes. I went, these video cassettes that I recorded from the TV, which is so primitive now to think I had to stay up and tape it. But I was on a lot. I think I did like 25 times or something in his year. And they were all from the couch, but they were all, he was such among his
You're doing your
many
act
gifts.
from the couch.
Yeah, but you had to, but you'd see guys who didn't do it well, and
Right.
they go, and it has to somehow fit into conversation.
Right.
And if you do your homework and make it palatable to be a dialogue, he was a genius at setting you up, and he was
Great laugher.
a great laugher. And
to laugh.
Yeah, and I remember one of the highlights of my life, when you did the Peter Falk thing, and he pushed himself away from the chair laughing. I got an ad lib laugh from him, similarly, and I remember the laugh was so big. I was like, and I watched the tape. And I went, I was just sitting there going, I didn't prepare for this. I don't know what to do. Do I just smile? Just wait. It was a huge, because they loved seeing him laugh, and
Yes.
it was a funny little bit. But I remember a couple of days later at the Improv, and Rodney Dangerfield, who had never said hello to me, goes, "Hey, that was quite a laugh you got from Johnny." I went,
Oh,
wow! It's
wow.
like the currency of Johnny really liked that.
It was the best compliment I ever got. Was never someone commenting about a routine or a bit or a moment going over well. The best compliment possible was, Johnny really likes you.
Well, that's absolutely. So the second time I went on, which was now sitting down, talk about before, like you can't tell somebody else how much you mean to them. Similarly, you can't, I remember I'd go on Letterman, and I'd fly into New York to do Letterman. And he would go, "Oh, what brings you to New York?" And you can't go, "I'm doing you. I'm doing your show. I need a better story."
Yeah.
So the second time I go on, I had a bit about how, your parents, and they always look at you, and it was absolutely true. It was a very telling moment. My parents, obviously in their eyes, I had made it when I was on Johnny. That's how, there's no stamp of approval like being on Johnny. And so my father, who was not, he didn't always compliment that easily, and he didn't say, "Gee, you're funny." He goes, "Yeah, Johnny seemed to like you."
Right.
Like, I guess you must be okay. So I tried to tell that story, and in the middle of telling it, I realized this is embarrassing Johnny, because basically what I'm saying is, yeah, the fact that you liked me helped me. Like, he's going, yeah, I can't help you with
He's
this.
never comfortable with any sort of. I busted him once on the somebody told me. So after being on the show 8 or 9 times, and you just had the familiarity, and it was always panel for me because I went on first with Willow as an actor and so on. So I got so comfortable one time because they were always asking me to do an impression of him to him, which I refused. But I did teach him how to do Peter Falk with the one eye. Because the second time on, he wanted me to. So we had that closeness, right? One night, in the middle of the interview, I'd already been out for 3 or 4 minutes. And he was just that awful transition, you know. We just got done talking about hand gliding. We just finished the hand gliding story. Now he said, now somebody told me, and I said, who told you? And he tapped me on the arm and said, never you mind. Somebody told me, but it was that little tiny thing we shared that the audience had no idea what just happened.
I once had a moment like that with Bob Hope. That was so embarrassing. Not embarrassing, but just fruitless. It was when My Two Dads was on, so it was like 87, and there was some in-house promotion, NBC thing. It was like a special, whatever, some hokey thing, where I was the host, and I was going to the houses of 5 or 6 NBC stars, David Hasselhoff, then I forget who else, and we go to Bob Hope's house. So I go, geez, Bob Hope is a legend. And I thought it would be really funny to sort of pop him on. He goes, I want to tell you. And I said, well, it'll be really funny if I go, now you say I want to tell you, but then I noticed you never finished. You don't, what is it that you wanted to tell me? But I questioned, I said, I wasn't sure if this is going to be funny. Right? And like, so a comedian would get why it's funny, but and he's 85 at that point. And so I had gotten friendly with his cue card guy, Barney, who invented the cue cards.
Oh my God.
He was with Bob on radio, and you don't need cue cards on radio because you can read it. But he said, cameras now.
Well, there was live audiences sometimes for those radio shows, so maybe that's why he had the cue cards as
maybe,
well.
But anyway, this guy apparently invented the and he was an older fellow too. I said, do you think this will be funny? Oh yeah, Bob will love that.
Oh no.
You sure? Yeah. So I go, so let me ask you, when you say, I want to tell you. Okay, he said, and I think the setup was, hey, kid, you're starting out, anything you want to ask me? And so I said, yeah, you say, I want to tell you. And he just literally took the comedy right out of it. He said, well, no, it's what was the word he uses? It's like a teaser. It's a tease. It's a trail. It's a little trailer, like it goes to he was actually giving me the literal answer. Oh, it's just a way to get to the next joke. I'm going to go, yeah, okay, joke's over. Okay, I'm an asshole.
He answered your question.
Yeah, and I realized it was such
anyone who does an impression of Hope has to do that. I want to tell you.
Right. Yeah. And it was such a rookie mistake because I realized he can't make fun of it. Like you were trying to get with Johnny, and he could get a laugh out of it. But at best, if he understood that it wasn't a genuine question, he would go, what are you doing? You making fun of me? I went, yeah, I'm an idiot.
That's right.
It was a rookie mistake.
Let's get back to famous questions because there are so many.
Are there?
But put a pin in Richard Kind. We're going to need a Richard Kind story of any kind. The Red Oaks, but also Mad About You, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so a couple of opportunities. And then the Jim Brooks connection. I don't want to forget that either.
Jim Brooks
So let's jump ahead to famous questions.
I don't know
Here
what
we
that
are.
is, but go ahead.
Danny Stern writes, Paul, not a lot of people know what a talented musician you are. Your piano playing skills are professional grade, as is your songwriting. I've seen you play everything, jazz, rock, swing, boogie. And by boogie, I mean the time we caught you tickling Mickey Rourke's ivories in the Camaraderie Camper.
Camaraderie Camper.
Your sense of rhythm and syncopation are extraordinary. In
this is not a question. This is an obituary.
It really is. In your acting and in your comedy.
It's more like a eulogy.
It really is. At least they're just on the edge.
Danny
setting
has
them
a lot
up,
of time,
knocking them down, unexpected yet. And I just said, do you have a question for Paul? That's how I send the email out. When you are in the groove, we're getting to the question, do they feel like they are all the same kind of artistic expression? Or does the physicality of playing piano make it somewhat less cerebral, artistic exercise than comedy?
Wow.
Or
Danny
acting?
has a lot of time to come up with a thoughtful question like that.
If you would rather answer What the hell happened in the camaraderie camper?
I'll tell you about that.
Okay.
But it's an interesting thing
Yeah.
that I can share because I always played piano and I was like music major in college, but I never ever was tempted to merge the two because they were so separate in my mind. One is comedy and one is music, and in fact, the music that I like is always really melancholy, and I mean, I love composers that are heartbreakers and or even just in popular music, it's like a singer-songwriter who can break your heart is much more interesting to me than
the Vidka Borga thing was not.
Not for me. But although I can appreciate it, but it wasn't something I could do. So I did. I think what he's talking about, I did an album. I met this wonderful singer-songwriter, Julia Fordham, who I was a fan of, and similar. She had a whole bunch of albums in the early '90s, and she has this unbelievably beautiful voice. And I was driving here in LA, and I heard this song on the radio, and I had to pull over. I was weeping. Oh my God, she was some. So shortly afterwards, somebody asked me on some interview, "What do you listen to?" And I said, "Well, I just heard this new singer-songwriter. And she wasn't that new, but new to me." And I said some lovely things about her. And the next day, she called me. And I said, "Well, this is a nice job. You say something, and the person you like calls you." And so we became friendly, and that was it. And then about 5, 7 years later, I bump into her again, and this was now Mad About You is over, and I was home a lot, and I was composing again, and I'd finally just gotten back into sitting and writing just for myself, and I bumped into her, and I thought, well, there's something synchronous about this. I said, I've been playing with this little thing. You want to maybe write a song together? I said, I don't know what this is. It's like 30 seconds of pretty music. I don't know if it's a song or a movie cue or a symphony. I don't know what it is. And she said, sure, because she's crazy. And she came over, and we had a play date. And she came over, and she brought a guitar, and she took the melody. She said, hold on a second. She went outside with a pad and paper and came back with lyrics and reinvented the melody, and we wrote this song. I went, oh my God, that's really gorgeous. And
that's how that works.
And then I hit record on my little rinky-dink system. I said, let's write another one. And then we had like 4, and I go, well, let's make an album. Anyway, so at some point, this is 7 years ago, or I think, 2010 or 11, we put this album out, and it was totally not Comedy Boy Wants to Be a Rock Star.
Not at all.
And in fact, the songs were all so melancholy that I wanted to call the album Why So Sad? Why So Sad? And we did a little series of dates.
Shows.
Yeah, we did with San Francisco, New York, LA, somewhere else, Philly, I forget, Washington. And we had this little band, 4-piece band, and it was the first time I ever was on stage and I didn't talk, and I loved it. Yeah. And I was so to Danny's question, it was such a separate thing that I was going, oh, this is just about the music, and I'm not the front person, she is. I'm just sitting here trying to, hopefully I don't fuck it up, which I did on occasion, and I'll just follow the drummer because I don't know what happens next. And actually being on stage and not talking was very liberating and cool. Yeah. It was very fun. It was a new experience for me.
And the camaraderie camper.
The camaraderie camper is fun. When you did Barry's movie, Avalon, he said, just go out and hang out. Yeah. That apparently is his mode of preparation. So Diner, which was his first movie, and he was remarkably confident and self-assured about what he wanted to do, he knew that the gist of the movie was like an 8-week shoot, was these guys have to look like they're best buddies. So he saved those diner scenes, the scenes within the actual diner, for the last week. And he wanted us to spend the early part just getting to know each other. And on that, while we were shooting that, we all had our little honey wagon trailer, like 6 foot by 4 feet. It was a prison. It was like a solitary prison. But he got a little bigger camper. And he said, between takes, I want you guys all hanging in there. The camaraderie camper. I don't know if they gave it the name and it kind of worked. We were just hanging out and just getting ornery and cranky and funny. And I remember guys who Barry grew up with who were in the diner world would come and tell stories, and we'd all just patiently go, yeah, we don't care. Don't care.
It's not in the script.
Not in the script. Yeah. That's a thoughtful question, Danny.
Not bad.
So here's a little thing, by the way. Sure. This is how long we're alive. So when we met, Dan and I met on Diner, when we went to film it, which was February of '81.
Yep.
He had just gotten married, and I didn't know a lot of married people. A year later, now, April '82, 2, we go to the premiere and diner. He comes with his wife and his infant baby boy. I go, wow, look at it, you got a boy. So that baby boy was at the premiere. That little boy, Henry, is now a state senator in California, like 6'2", genius, Stanford, Harvard, Yale, whatever grad, and doing like fantastic work of environmental stuff. And went, wow. So the baby that somebody I knew had a baby is now a senator. That's how fucking old we apparently are.
That's spectacular.
Yeah, it's great. He's a great guy.
I also love that he was the only guy in the group who had to talk about the honesty of being a young married couple.
Yes,
in the actual film.
Yeah.
Okay, Carol Leifer.
You actually bother all these people and say, I have Kevin?
Yep.
Did you ever bother me for somebody else? I think you did.
I'm gonna. What does the trilogy of new regulars
I'm
mean?
not going to take the call. I'll tell you right now.
This is from Carol Leifer.
Carol Leifer, what does she say?
What does the trilogy of new regulars
the trilogy of new regulars.
is you,
Carol Leifer, and Rich Hall. Mm-hmm. And we all passed the audition on the same night. It would have been in the summer of 79, I'm going to guess. Or 70.
7. That's what she wrote.
7. That's right. 77. Yes. I graduated in 77. And
The MC.
And at the time, see now the MCs in club was like for the last many years, it has been the thankless job, like the rookie guy go up and you host the show. But at the time, the MCs were like the hottest guy, the hottest comic. And Seinfeld was the MC, and he actually, I don't know if he got to pass us and say, yes, you're, or he just would recommend us to the owners. But he was the guy that gave the thumbs up on the same night to me and Carol and Rich Hall.
She also asked, do you remember honk if you're from Yemen? She said it's one of your first bits that still makes her howl to think about to this day. Honk if you're from Yemen.
At the time, I do remember the bit. You know, that's the other nice thing about having friends for this long.
Yeah.
That there's certain memories, again, that are from the past that we will automatically, and I know Carol since college, so we have like references that literally are so small, only she and I get. The bit was, this is the weak bit, at the time bumper stickers were, honk if you love this or honk if you do this. And I said, well, those are easy because you might be, and I said, what would be more courageous? What's less common? Honk, for example, honk if you're from Yemen.
Still funny.
So funny. I can't remember, there was 2 or 3 of them at the time. Honk if you, I don't know what it was. But yes, that was the premise.
From Bobby Cannavale.
Really?
The question is,
he's a talented
have you come
fellow.
up with a name for our pilot that we shot many years ago that didn't go? Did you ever come up with a name for the pilot?
Yes. I call it the Dead Bobby Cannavale pilot.
And then he adds to that, love this guy, you, very kind and generous and warm, should have played the part that I played since all I seemed to do was my best Paul Reiser impression.
It's very funny because I have another show that I want to do. It's a pilot that we shot a couple of years ago. I'm a big believer. Like, I don't give up. Yeah. Like, I'm actually working on 2 things now that I've been developing and playing with for 15 years. On the Peter Falk, I told you, for 20 years. I shot a pilot that I wasn't in, but I wrote and produced.
Is it Atlanta?
No, that was a different one.
Okay.
I like that one too. I want to dig that one up too. No, it's another one. I don't want to say what it was, but... And I was thinking, Bobby Cannavale should do this. It was sort of the one that the pilot I wrote for Bobby was sort of based on this one. And it was, the idea was a sort of Rashomon, like you're telling a story and then you keep on going back and seeing, well, that wasn't quite true, and then I'll tell the truth. And he's so funny and talented. I remember Bobby Cannavale, we were hanging, and he's a great guy and very funny. He's so New Yorky. And I said, you got to come over for dinner. I said, yeah, come meet the kids. So at the time, my kids were younger. It was like 7 years ago. And I said, well, come for dinner. And he said, yeah, great. What time? I said, well, the kids home from school. You know what, come at 5:30. He looked at me and goes, Paul, what the fuck? Like 5:30. I'm like getting up at 4. I said, afterwards the kids have homework.
I'm getting up.
So he shows up at 5:30. God bless him. And then and we sat and we drank afterwards after the kid went to sleep. But I remember him being he has a kid. He had a kid. I don't know if he had a kid then. He must have had a kid then. Yes, he does. His kid's older. But he was just so thrown. Like, dinner at 5:30. That's like much older people.
Yeah.
Like, well, welcome to my world.
Freddie Prinze Jr., was he in the Atlanta?
He was in Atlanta.
Okay, so he asked a question of you.
Look at you.
I reached out.
Now, how do you do that?
These are people
very clever.
It's really the whole reason to do Famous Questions segment on the show is to show off who I have access to.
I see.
Yeah, it's not even
And
about
that they
you.
respond.
And that they respond.
Like, yeah.
We presume. Who knows? We hear from Bobby Cannavale, his lawyer. I never heard of Kevin.
Freddie Prinze Jr. Asked, when you write a book, are you able to translate your jokes directly from what you do on stage, or do you need to change it up a little?
That's what he asks.
When you write funny, how about that?
Here's what I say. What's his business?
Mind your own business.
You're going to write a book?
I've been stealing that, I realize, for maybe 28 years.
How's it your business?
How's that your business? When someone asks a very straightforward question, waitress at his table. Are you ready to order? How's that your business?
You stole that
I stole
from
that
him?
from Paul
He
Reiser.
does that.
And I don't know if I
probably
stole it
every
from
time
somebody. How is it your business? Yeah, it just
You
makes
say that
it makes people back
probably
off.
4 times a week.
I do. Still.
It makes people back off
It
a little
does.
bit.
How's that your business?
Yeah.
I've had people quote it back to me, and I said,
I feel it doesn't go over well about half the time.
yes, it's true. Half the time people they're not
They
in
don't
step.
You know, I'll tell you a funny thing about Freddie, who was
Yes, I love him so much.
He's really talented, sweet guy, and he was great. And this is another pilot. We did this pilot called Atlanta, and there's no relationship. That have to change the title now because
Yeah.
there is a very successful, terrific show called Atlanta. But this was like a two-hander. It was Freddie and Leslie Bibb, who was really gorgeous and funny and terrific. And it was really, and I think I had been in Atlanta, and I just thought there was something very combustible and in a good way. Like there was like all these really good-looking young people, and they're hanging out, and I remember I must have been playing there, and I was married already. And I go, who are all these people that hang out? And so the show was basically these two people who are serial monogamists, and both players, and just really. You know they're attracted to each other, and you know it's going to be a lot of combat. And he's playing her, and she's playing him, and I was just going to watch these two killers. And they were great. But Freddie's dad I never met him, but he was sort of very much part of what made me find my way to comedy. Not that he made me want to be a comedian, but because of his success, it was the quintessential example of how success was had in those early 70s. The comedy clubs were just becoming, happening. Mm-hmm. So here was a guy, and he was on TV, and he was a huge star.
And so young. 19.
So young, yeah.
19 on the Tonight Show.
And it was very clear. They said he was in this club, and then he got discovered. And then he went on Carson, and he killed it, and he got a show, and I was a huge star.
Yeah.
And his whole career was, 3 years. But that shone a light on like, so if I go to that club,
right.
Not that I'll necessarily have his trajectory, but that's where you go. That's that's where you apply. So I didn't know. I would not have known. I was never like a self-starter that I would have thought to, like there were guys like Rich Hall, like go to a college with a microphone and go, can I set up in the lunchroom and just do a show? I'm like, wow, that's some balls. I don't know how you do that. I needed to see where there was a plan laid out and just go and apply. And then when I was kind of on the fence, and a couple of years later deciding to really commit to being a comedian, or I was going to go into my dad's business, and I remember reading this biography. I think his mother may have written, or somebody, I don't know. I can't remember now. It was called The Freddie Prinze Story. It was a little paperback, and it just, I was magnetized. I was hypnotized by it. It's like, because it was all that, like, oh my gosh, and then this club, and then he was hanging out, and then he got $120 for this club.
And
oh my
David
gosh.
Brenner said,
and David
this.
Brenner
Yeah.
and all. And it was just like, it was so important to me. And I remember, so I remember my freshman year in college, he was very much in my mind of like, okay, that's the path. And then I remember when he killed himself in January of '77, I remember, and it lingered for a day or two. He didn't die right away.
Yeah.
And I remember just being crushed and sitting watching the news. And it wasn't like now, it was this 24-hour news. You had to watch, and I just like, wow, my God, what do you mean? What do you even mean? This guy had it all. How could this happen? And I remember at the time everyone's going, a guy died. I went, no. He was important to me. And I never met him, but he was so important to me, and it was so tragic and so sad. And he had this little baby. And his little baby. And then suddenly Freddie Jr. came in and auditioned, and it's like, okay, I had this great affection for him. It's like, you're Freddie's boy. I'm like, and then so one day we're taking a walk and just talking, and he shared that he had enjoyed, because of the affection for his father, he had enjoyed a lot of don't say mentorship, but guidance and just friendship of so many people who held his dad and that he in high esteem and affectionately. So he was very, I don't think he knew his dad. He was a baby. I think he was 2, right, 1 or 2 when his dad died. But it was his father was very much a part of his life. He has his name and he has the legacy, but he's certainly proved he's become.
I had a similar experience just in terms of the mentorship. I did this movie, the movie that sort of made Freddie a matinee idol. She's All That. And I went up to him with a similar story, which is what your father meant to me.
Oh, really?
And he said, you commented on meeting people like Charlie Fleischer and other people who had a similar thing. And he said, but Kevin, you have to understand, I didn't know my father at all.
Right.
But I can recite your first HBO special verbatim.
Wow.
My friend and I played it on the VHS till the tape broke. And he started doing my bits from 1988.
Wow.
But he was such a beautiful actor, Freddie Prinze Jr., in a little tiny movie with Parker Posey right before that called The House of Yes, a little indie drama, and he was so good.
He's a really good actor.
We go on now to Helen Hunt, who had to go through Robin Roseanne, a mutual friend. What city, this is from Helen, what city did her character Jamie travel to buy socks on the show?
Whew. Got me.
In the hint is it's in the Southwest.
Wow.
What city?
I don't even know who that is. Who is Helen? No. A sock joke? A sock?
Traveled to
Scranton?
in the Southwest to buy socks.
I have no idea.
Excellent, because I don't have the answer here.
Wow. But you know what was fun?
First.
One of we had one of the running jokes that we had was how quickly we would forget last week's show.
Yeah.
So every Friday, when the show, we tape on a Friday and we go in and we'd have a little bit of pizza and beer and the big thing on a sitcom is you cross off on the big chalkboard that has all the episodes, you cross off this week's episode. And you go, okay, 12 down, 10 to go.
Right.
And invariably, every Friday, we look at last week's episode. It was called Zippy Buys a Hat. And we look at each other, any idea? Not a clue. Not a clue.
Don't know what happened.
Something about a hat? I know. Couldn't tell you.
Well, that stayed with her all these years. What Southwest city?
And she doesn't know?
She does, but she didn't share it in the question.
Well, that's just wrong.
Let's move very quickly on.
Let's call her.
To David Harbour.
David.
Your very recent co-star.
Yes.
Which we can talk. I think it's public record that you're on season 2.
For a long time, I was not allowed to talk about it, and then it was yes.
So his
on Stranger Things.
His question.
It's going to be a bad one. Go ahead.
To you is.
Oh, it's an in-laws question.
What would Bing and Bang be doing if they weren't flying private planes? So the 2 Asian pilots on the little plane.
In the in-laws.
In the in-laws.
Well, we were laughing.
What would Bing and Bang, their names? Bing and Bang.
Bing and Bang. Billy and Bang. I believe it was Billy and Bang.
It was Billy and Bang.
And the line, and Andrew Bergman, who wrote the in-laws, and had all these gorgeous lines that just, you can't even imagine the brain that comes up with it. Mm. And so Peter's flying Alan Arkin on this private plane with these 2 wildly comic Asian, who don't speak English, Chinese guys. And Peter's talking, I assume, gibberish Chinese to them. He goes, Billy and Bang, he goes, if Chiang Kai-shek had made it to the mainland, Billy and Bang would have been co-anchors of the 6 o'clock news. I go, that has so many moving parts in that joke.
Yeah.
So the premise is, if Chiang Kai-shek, you got to start with that, had made it to the mainland,
right.
These 2 guys would have been co-anchors of their 6 o'clock news. And it's just a perfectly, it's not even that big. Co-anchors, moderately big show.
That's right.
Oh, is that might kill me? That's great. That's what David Harbour's doing now. He's playing the next, the remake of Hellboy.
Yeah.
He's Hellboy.
Yeah. He's the new reimagined.
I told him, throw me a bone. Maybe I could be his Hellboy's, attorney. Zippy. Zippy, the attorney.
What was the worst for actual question from David Harbour?
Oh, an actual question.
What was the worst piece of direction that you ever got? It's a strange thing. Does that relate to something in specific?
No.
And then the last question: how did you beat out Kevin Pollak for the role in Stranger Things?
That's a cutthroat
business.
He
knew that would get to me. But I do want to talk about working with the brothers Duffer, because there's a lot of mystery about them, I think, for fans of the show.
Is it?
Who just enjoyed season 1. Jamie and I think, became instant, sort of.
I fed off of all the 80s nostalgia instantly.
Yeah. Yeah.
which I think many people do.
And the
Yeah.
music was astonishing.
Well, also even the font of the
Yes.
titles, the title
The
card,
Stephen King font.
and there's a huge billboard. I was just driving down Sunset, and I thought, wow, I know what that is from a mile away. Yeah, they're kind of little boy geniuses, the Duffer Brothers. They're identical twins. I still, after like 7 months, couldn't quite tell them apart.
Excellent.
And I would just go, hey, brothers, and if I get one of them at a time, I go, let me ask you, Mr. Duffer, because I was afraid. Whereas David, who had now worked with them much more, and for 2 years, he said, oh, I can't even believe that they're related. They look so different to me. So, yeah. So apparently, and there is differences. But they're really just so unaffected and smart and enthusiastic. They loved this. They wrote this because they love this world. They
Yeah.
grew up on those movies.
Yeah.
And they were, and they know exactly what it should look like. And
Are they verbatim directors and writers in terms of saying the lines as written?
no, they were totally fine with changing lines, but they certainly knew. But sometimes they would say, just do that. We need that word for
Right.
another scene.
Don't
It
fuck with the
references back.
context,
And it's really comic. And this year is so much bigger production scale than the first season. And the first season, and David Harbour was telling me, like, they didn't know what this was. He said, I think it's good. I don't know if it's going to be good. Well, not only was it great, but then it became this zeitgeist thing.
Yeah.
So the second season, there was all this secrecy around it. You couldn't share the script. You couldn't talk about it. You couldn't take pictures on the set. And it loosened up a bit. But also the production was huge. I mean, each 1 hour, they would shoot like 2 episodes over 5 weeks. So, but it was like, it looked like, aliens. I mean, it was just huge production and brilliant set design. And those guys were great. And the funny thing was, when it came out last summer, my 16-year-old said, hey, Dad, you heard of this new show, Stranger Things? I said, no. He said, you like it, man. It's really good. I said, when did it come out? He said, yesterday. I said, you watched them all? Yeah, all of them. I said, when are you going to school? So, and literally.
Well, first of all, it was summer. It was August. That's when he's going to school.
See, this is why nobody likes you. It's exactly this kind of thing. Fair enough. But when are you eating? When are you bathing? Those could have been
Right.
questions. But anyway, so he told me about the show.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll have to check it out. I walked to my room, my office, and my agent calls me. He goes, listen, have you heard of a show called Stranger Things? I went, yeah, of course. What do I live in a cave? Yeah, I'm quite aware of it.
Your son had just told you about
He
it.
had just told me, literally 5 minutes ago. I said, well, why did you just mention that? I said, yeah, my son just told me. He goes, these guys want to meet with you for season 2. I said, oh, okay. And I was leaving town like 2 days later, so I went and I downloaded and I watched 3 or 4 of them. And the next morning had breakfast with them on my way to the airport. And they couldn't have been more delightful. And they had apparently written this role with me in mind, to the extent they said we kept calling the guy Reiser. It's Paul Reiser. I said, well, and then they said we should probably just get him. And I said, well, I'm very flattered. Why? How would you know from, me? And they're from North Carolina, I think. And they said, well, our dad, we grew up on Diner. And so they were very 80s. I mean, you wouldn't see. Well, actually, they did try to work in a diner joke in one of the episodes.
But Aliens, too.
But it certainly was Aliens, and I think the character in Aliens was what the kind of the baggage they wanted to bring deliberately to this character.
Right.
So you're not sure. You think he's going to be bad, but maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But but certainly the Stephen King's, it's Goonies meets Poltergeist meets all those things, and they have created. And when I met them, it was literally 3 days after it had premiered, and they were just in awash in this attention, and they couldn't believe it. In the same way you and I go, I can't believe we get to meet the people. They're going, Stephen King told us that it was his favorite thing, and he goes, my God, Stephen King.
You met with them in the tiny, tiny bubble of time from total unknowns,
Yes.
for the most part, to about to be, not even yet 3 days, about to be truly entrenched in the zeitgeist.
Well, it was big. I mean,
Worldwide.
the world is, they did, I don't know if it was deliberate or not, but the way they promoted that show almost by making it just word of mouth. There was no big ads or anything.
Nothing.
But it was huge. And so, my son is often my litmus test for the culture, and he brings a lot of things to my consciousness. So he was into it, and his friends were into it. I went, there's something going on. And then I heard everybody saying, oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm
But when we sat with them, they hadn't even known. They said, listen, we don't even know if we're going to get to do a second season. I said, well, pretty sure you are. But at the time, they didn't even know for sure they would.
Right.
I don't think I've ever been part of something that was pure word. Like, I remember, like, the week it came out, everyone I ran into was watching it and talking about it, and like, how many episodes are you in yet? Are you watching it? Like,
that's the new water cooler, because there's, you know, it used to be every Wednesday you talk about the show that was Tuesday night, but now that you can watch exactly that, you watch them all.
But I never experienced it, but like, because there's so much content. People are like, are you watching this? Yeah, I mean to check that out. But this one, everyone was watching.
Yeah, and they did
across all boards.
Yes, and they also did a brilliant job, and this is how TV writing has changed. It's not like what's going to happen next week. It's like what's going to happen next season. And each episode ends with pushing towards. So they did it brilliantly that each one ends like, oh, I got to have another cookie now. I got to watch the next one. Oh, I got to watch the next one. So they got you.
They were almost diabolical in their ability to do what you just said.
Yeah.
Really, from a creative standpoint.
Yes. And it never felt forced. It felt really earned.
Yeah. Because I know from a little bit of working with the Netflix people and getting to know some of them there, that they, you know, because they're one of those great new entities that doesn't release numbers, and they just say, we love the show, this show's a success. But the truth of some of the inside skinny is they can not only tell how many people are clicking on to the next, they have great analytics on how many people can't wait for the countdown to take you to the next episode, but how many people hit go now.
Wow.
In the 9 seconds before this next episode is going to start.
It's really changed. I did this show that you were very helpful to, this show I just did for CISO, There's Johnny, which is about Johnny Carson, 1972, and it's going to be streamed. And when we wrote the 7 scripts, I had this traditional thing like, well, each episode's going to sort of round and finish nicely. And they kept saying, yeah, no, we don't do that anymore. We have to make sure that the end of 2, they're jumping to right into the next show.
As a writing
thing. And like, it took a while to get it. It's like, and it wasn't that hard to do, but it's a very deliberate reconstruction that, you got to grab them because audiences are not waiting a week.
No.
They're not waiting.
I can't believe an hour and a half flew by.
You need a Richard Kind story.
But we need a Richard Kind story. So Red Oaks or Mad About You?
You need a Richard Kind.
You know that these are legendary. That there are more Richard Kind stories than Christopher Walken stories.
Is that true?
That everyone in the
But
circle,
he didn't call in with a question.
I refuse to reach out to Richard.
Good move.
Because it takes 9 years to get a response.
Is that true?
For anything. Because there's the premise that he doesn't have time. Kevin, can I be honest with you? I don't have this kind of time.
When we cast Richard in Mad About You, we had our best friends couple, and right from the beginning, the premise was we're tired of them already. The premise was friends. We have a commitment.
Yes.
Even the pilot was like, oh shit, we forgot they're coming to dinner. Can you get out of it? And so the characters were lovingly annoying to us, and I think my partner, Danny Jacobson, knew Richard, and he came in and just floored us. It was just so funny. Then when we had to cast his wife, he was very nice. Richard would come in and would read with prospective actresses. And the poor women didn't have a chance because we're just watching him because he was fun. And he already had the part. Right. And we're just going, can't not wait to write for this guy. And he was absurdly funny. And I mean, there were in that first season, I'm very undisciplined when something's funny. I just can't not laugh. Yeah. And we lost take after take. I go, I can't look Richard. It was like staring into the sun. I go, he can't be that close to my face when he's talking because I can't fucking breathe. Yeah. And I had that with Mel Brooks. When Mel Brooks came on the air, they were just shots. If you ever watch the first episode that Mel Brooks did as my Uncle Phil, they did a lot of uncharacterized, a lot of singles of the other people. Johnny Pankow played my cousin. Cut away to him because Reiser is like, and I would be sitting there turning away from the camera as if, that's going to help. But this is not a junior high school play where you just got to turn your back. Asshole, they can see you not being there. And I couldn't. And I go, Mel Brooks is standing right there.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
What a pleasure.
For all the time.
I can't believe you bothered all these people.
Well, please.
And, don't be calling me for other people.
No. You have to at least one. Now I realize when I had Carol Leifer on, the question she asked you is a question Jerry asked for her in the famous questions when she was on about
Oh, really?
the three. Yeah. All right, folks. There's Paul Reiser. Thank you so much for joining us. Next week, I believe Rob Corddry. I'm just going to say yes, and we'll see what happens. I want to thank everybody here at Earwolf, especially Aaron, who's been our engineer running the damn thing.
Don't wake him up.
Thank
Don't
you
wake
so
him
much,
up.
Aaron, for staying with us. Jamie, final comments, thoughts? Perfect.
You always catch me off guard. No, I thank you everyone for coming in on a Saturday. This was very
Jamie,
nice.
who would you say has been your favorite guest on this show?
I'm always very fond of the comedians.
Yeah. No, but I mean
like
more specifically, like you just think like
Today?
from today and then look backwards. But starting with today, who would you say is your
starting
favorite?
with today. Well, I think you're pressuring me to say yeah.
No pressure. But, whatever
I do
comes
have
to
an
mind.
answer.
Whatever comes to mind.
My favorite guest ever was Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Nice try, though.
Sorry.
She's
It
horrible.
was very subtle.
And she's just a horrible person.
No, I'm just honest.
Yeah, but, okay.
Why is honesty horrible?
Okay, have you ever met a comedian that wanted an honest answer? And they said, "Let me ask you a true question." An honest we don't want that.
But I wanna tell
love
you-
Sam Rockwell. Was he
Yeah.
funny?
He was.
Yeah, of course he was. He's very funny. He's great.
Wildly engaging, and his dad came with him and sat out in the thing watching. which
I
was-
do though. My favorite guests are always the comedians and the filmmakers.
Yeah,
As opposed to the dentist. Who else is
directors.
coming on here?
No, there's writers,
but this is
musicians.
there's just
Oh, really?
like just
How many shows have you
actors.
done?
Elon Musk has been on the
Is
show.
that true?
I'm just saying it
How
happened.
many people? How many shows?
You're
have you done?
311.
311.
Yes, sir. Wow. It's all on YouTube. I'll send you a link.
I thought I was the first one. I had no idea this. No. A pleasure, man. Lovely to see you.
Such a great joy. And thanks lastly to Corey Levin for post-production. That's it for today. And until next time, man, as always, get out of my face.